Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and welcome to This Week in WoW for the week of June 13th. Still no Mythic Plus schedule set, but we can talk a little bit about last week's Mythic Plus real quick. Last week we did end up having Sanguine and Volcanic along with Tyrannical, so it was Tyrannical, Volcanic, Sanguine in that order, and that was were the fixes. So it was the first really set of affixes where we didn't have one of these new ones or we didn't have one of these changed ones. And it was a pretty easy set of affixes. This did cause a little bit of a stir among the more higher end community where they were pushing keys super high because the affixes were easier this week and they were getting to pain points in certain dungeons where they weren't able to complete them because essentially on a high enough key the boss was basically like impossible, or so and so mob was impossible to deal with because it just did more damage than they could handle despite being in all the best gear, all the best everything. And so there were some cryouts for tuning. That could be true. There could need to be some tuning for like super high keys to be completed, and I think that's fine. But I do also think we are reaching that point that I've been talking about where after a month or so, this is going to be a little bit more than a month. But after a month or so, I think people might start getting a little bit worn out or whatever, but they would have like a lot of fun the first month. I think we're kind of just getting to that point. Diablo's out as well, and a lot of the player base is playing Diablo. So you have a couple of those things like mixed together, where you have a large portion of the player base playing a different game pretty exclusively, and then you have people that are still playing WoW kind of getting burnt out because it's been that time period that I mentioned. So I think that's largely what we're seeing. That's not to say the dungeons don't need some tuning still, but they've done a great job on tuning dungeons so far. It's really just been this last week where they didn't do tuning, so we'll see there. Is it true that people are like, well, they're too busy playing Diablo? Well, maybe they are playing a lot of Diablo. Maybe they are. They're also working on patch 10.1.5, which is close to coming out, and you have to remember, too, they're probably trying to get things ready for BlizzCon later this year to have something to present at BlizzCon. So a portion of the team is going to be working on that, whether that's a super far look ahead to the next expansion or hint at it, and of course, just what's coming next throughout this expansion. So I do think we're going to see slightly less tuning than what we have been seeing, which was like literally every week. And that's not a good thing, but I do kind of understand it. Other than that, let's talk about what's going on in the game this week. This week's pretty much worthy event of talking about is the Time Walking Dungeon event. It's Mists of Pandaria Time Walking, so if you want to engage with that, you can go ahead and do so. I'm not sure what the reward is going to be now that the event of Time Walking's over, because you were getting like a heroic piece of gear or something like that for doing it. So I don't know if it's still going to remain that or if it's going to go down to normal or whatever, but we will find out when it goes live, I suppose. But we have the Time Walking Dungeon event this week. The Greedy Emissary is ending on Wednesday, so if you're like me and still have not gotten them out, unfortunately, despite trying every single day, at least one kill every day, that kind of stinks, but it is what it is, and that'll be coming to an end on Wednesday. And then Thursday, Welcome to Sanctuary starts, and this is going to be a experience and reputation gain increase. So it's another Diablo themed event, but it's just basically experience and reputation gain on Azeroth. So if you want to level alt or if you want to grind reputation of some sort or get your reputations on the Dragonflight, I know a lot of people don't ever finish those, the renown tracks and stuff. You can work on that with this increased buff that you don't have to do anything special for. You just kind of get it. It'll just be a buff up on the top of your screen or whatever. So pretty easy there. Other than that, I already mentioned kind of like a little bit of Mythic Plus drama. There's been some PvP drama as well that I'll talk about just real quick because I can make a whole video on it. But basically, PvP is almost completely dead in WoW. There's hardly anybody playing in the 2s bracket, the 3s bracket. There's still people doing solo shuffle, but not that many either compared to Season 1 especially. I haven't touched PvP in this patch yet because, it's just, I just don't think it's that fun. I don't think it's that good. And me personally, I'm very turned off by the whole Rep Paladin thing. Rep Paladins with the rework got extremely strong to the point where they needed to be heavily nerfed. But then the community, the PvP community, the diehards, the streamers, the whatever, they continue to complain about Rep Paladin. Some of them know people that work at Blizzard to have ways to contact that, and they got Rep Paladins completely nerfed to be pretty much crappy again in PvP. crappy might be an overstatement, but it went from being really, really fun, even after the first initial round of nerfs and stuff like that, to being not fun anymore. Because, Ret Paladin's not allowed to be strong, because it always has to be the same 5 specs that the same, 100 people have mastered throughout their career. So, it's a very annoying thing for me. Why am I going to touch PvP when my spec's not allowed to be good in it? It's very annoying. That's not to say, it's not to say I couldn't get a high rating or whatever again this season. But why bother when other specs are just way more powerful? And if my spec is powerful, it'll get nerfed into to the dirt because, a handful of people at the very, very top aren't happy about it. And so personally, just to wrap the PvP stuff up, I hope PvP completely dies out and can get remade or something, because it needs completely remade from the ground up. The whole thought process of it needs completely remade. And it needs some big extravagant changes if it ever wants to be good again. And I don't care if it's good again. There's plenty of other games to do player versus player in. But I've had it with the PvP community. I think that they are effectively who killed PvP by their taking advantage of the fact that some PvP devs looked up to them and thought they were so cool and stuff like that, and where they were able to force changes that I think were pretty detrimental to the PvP overall. So, other than that, we actually did not get Rush Shock down this week, which I had hoped to do. That should happen this week. It was literally just not making a damage check at this point, which is very unfortunate. So hopefully some people can up their damage up a little bit. I'm playing pretty well myself, so I can't really expect too much more from myself on that fight. But so hopefully some other people can pump up their DPS a little bit and we can get it down, because we just would have a 2% wipe, a 2% wipe, a 2% wipe. And that was pretty frustrating. I also probably will not be doing, I will not be doing the Great Vault for the rest of the season, just because, again, I already have almost all my gear. The last one was pretty pointless as it was. Pretty much the only thing I can get is a Sark cloak. If I get that, I will be excited. It was a little bit disappointing because I never got anything spectacular out of the vault in the 4 or 5 ones that I did. Never got anything good out of it, so there's never any excitement or anything to share with the community. But I'll probably just bring it back at the beginning of each patch or whatever, each season, and do 3 or 4 or whatever, and hope I get something good for once out of my vault, and that'll be cool if I do. Yeah, a little bit of a disappointment as far as stuff goes, but I think it was a cool thing to do. I actually like doing it, so I will bring it back, but we'll not be doing one now because there's pretty much nothing for me to get, like I said, other than a Sark cloak. Other than that, yeah, I think that's about all for this week. I went on long enough. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel because that helps me out so much. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.